Hi, this is Big Daddy Cha-Cha, and today in this episode we're going to be talking about many things, a lot about American politics and the developments in the campaign since the respective conventions of the Democratic and Republican primaries. But I should also warn you that the subject of the movie The Purge will come up, and there will be spoilers for the movie The Purge. So if you have not watched The Purge, or perhaps its sequels, The Purge Anarchy or The Purge Election Night, then you may want to stop listening at the time we start talking about The Purge. You have been warned.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/The Rob Burgess Show. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Hello and welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I am, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 29th episode, our returning guest is Jonathan Fowler. But before we get to that, I need to take a moment to tell you about our sponsor. For you, the listeners of the Rob Burgess Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. The book which pertains to this episode is Trump Revealed, An American Journey of Ambition, Ego, Money, and Power by Michael Kranish and Marc Fisher. Whatever book you pick, you can exchange it at any time, you can cancel at any time, and the books are yours to keep. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/The Rob Burgess Show. Again, that's audibletrial.com/The Rob Burgess Show for your free audiobook. Please consider supporting those who support the show like Audible. You'll be helping me out and it won't cost you a thing. Another totally free way you can help the show is to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review everywhere the podcast is available. Whether it's iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Facebook, Twitter, TuneIn, or RSS, you can find links to everything on the official website, www.therobburgessshow.com. You can also find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. Back to today's show. You first heard Jonathan Fowler on episodes 2, 10, 20, and 21 of the podcast. Jonathan graduated with a BA in History from Indiana University in 2006. He is an unabashed left-wing political junkie. He has lived and worked in South Korea for over 9 years, trying to help the citizens of that great nation, hopefully, talk pretty one day. And now on to the show.
Hello.
Hey, Cha.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Oh, I'm great, man. How are you?
Oh, doing all right, yeah. Just got off a week-long vacation, basically, and back to work today, so, yeah. Otherwise, doing okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this, man. Last time we talked, we said we had to do some debate coverage.
Yeah. Those are coming up soon.
Yeah, but just so much has happened. It's funny because when we said we were going to talk, and then you were like, what are we going to talk about? And you were like, just so much has happened, and it's like, every day feels like a year. It's just like everything happens at once, and there's so many things that happen, you can't even keep track of it, so.
Yeah, it's, this election, it just feels like it's kind of gone through so many phases and stuff. And, everything is kind of speeding up here as we're getting closer. And, of course, Donald Trump, pretty much dominates the news every couple days, although Hillary has been in the news, not for anything very good lately. But, it's kind of hard to follow trends or to, to set down a simple narrative and stuff for what's going on. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening.
Well, what do you want to talk about first? We can talk about anything. We don't have to talk about that.
Well, I mean, I guess we did talk about possibly starting with health.
Yeah.
Candidates' health, which has been an issue lately, with Hillary especially, although I don't know, I think it's frustrating because obviously Donald Trump is probably nowhere near as healthy as he's pretending, and his doctor, who looks like a total crackpot, it's just it's amazing that he was able to get away with that. The goofy health letter from his doctor. I forget the guy's name, but just looking like a goofy guy.
I think the visual of that guy is a very key part of understanding that story.
Yeah,
but it's like the medical qualifications probably not there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's all kind of making a mockery of running for president, though, because I mean, for my job, I mean, this month I need to go to the hospital and do a medical checkup and everything for my job, which, we have to do every couple of years at least over here in Korea. And I'm a little stressed out. I mean, my blood pressure is probably a little bit higher than it was, but when I first came to Korea, living overseas can be stressful at times, and the job is stressful sometimes. But the fact is, I have to do a medical check, and the results matter or whatever. I can't have the job without it. And so for presidential candidates to produce a health check that's basically a doctor's note that it sounds like Donald Trump himself wrote, I mean, that's a joke, I mean, you're applying for the most important job in the land, and you're turning in a medical thing that, it's just a total joke. It's like, do you actually have to... Same thing with the tax things, providing the tax stuff. I mean, okay, so maybe it's not required that you produce your tax forms and stuff. It's not legally required, but it's a long-standing tradition, and this is the most important job in America. And so, what are the actual qualifications? I mean, I know you've got to be over 35 years old. What do they say? Do they say a natural-born U.S. citizen, or is that? I'm not sure exactly how that works.
It's never really been decided by the Supreme Court what exactly that means. It's a little bit open to interpretation. For example, John McCain is born in the Panama Zone, which at the time was under U.S. control. Ted Cruz is born in Canada, but yet, and still, one of his parents is American, so therefore his mother, I think. So therefore he is an American.
Yeah, actually, I had, and I mean, that brings us to birtherism, which has obviously been in the news this past week. And and I think, Donald Trump may have actually had a point on the birtherism with Ted Cruz, because there was some, I remember around that time when they were talking about that, it must have been like 6 months or so ago now. Maybe longer. They were saying that Ted Cruz's mother, she married a Cuban immigrant to Canada, and she and her husband were both registered to vote in Canada at the time that Ted Cruz was born. So if she was registered to vote in Canada, then that would have meant that she had renounced her American citizenship to get Canadian citizenship to be able to vote. So... But then it seemed like the news media just kind of dropped that story, and they're like, no, yeah, he can still run, no problem. But it's like, no, wait a minute, what was going on there? I mean, was she really registered to vote in Canada? And what does that mean if she was, So, yeah, I just to reiterate, I think they're totally making a mockery of the idea that you have to have qualifications for a job. Or as far as... just in any number of areas, with Hillary Clinton kind of lying about her health situation and saying, where she fainted trying to get, she left the 9/11 memorial service or whatever to get in the SUV with the Secret Service, and they're basically holding her up, and she basically collapses getting into the van and stuff, and then she says she just got overheated, and then I don't think she realized that there had been a cell phone video shot, because she comes out an hour and a half later from her daughter's apartment there in New York, and she's she's hugging kids and saying she feels great. It's a lovely day in New York City. And then, the video comes out, and then 2 hours later they say, oh, it's pneumonia. We've known since Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, well, and then they've said so many things. They said, like, what did they say? They said that there's been something going around the Clinton headquarters or campaign headquarters. And they're like, wait, what was that? Pneumonia's going around, or something else is going around? Or were you lying and trying to say that she just caught a bug or something? And then, there was the Bill Clinton interview where I forget which network it was on, but they asked him about this, and he said, no, we're not worried about it. This happens constantly, or happens all the time, or something. And then he changed his answer and said, no, it happens a couple times. And they edited the part out where he had said before that it's happened continuously and regularly.
Mm.
So it's just like, what is Hillary Clinton's actual health situation? I'm not, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Hillary, but I'm not saying that. Again, I think the cover-up is worse than whatever the crime is, as far as whatever the health situation is. I think the cover-up is much worse, and much more damaging. So, any thoughts about the health?
A lot of thoughts about the health. Although, here's the thing. I think we should just assume that the president just could die at any time. And for that very reason, it does matter who the vice president is. And that's why we have coming up, actually, a vice presidential debate. Because, as we all remember, when it was found out very quickly that Sarah Palin didn't know anything, it was very worrying because John McCain is a skin cancer survivor, a former prisoner of war, who was 72 years old in 2008. So it's a very real possibility that one heartbeat away, President Sarah Palin happens. Yeah, that is a concern, and I don't know. I'm not very excited about the vice presidential debate, I would say. Tim Kaine and Mike Pence is not very inspirational. Not this year, no.
So, but again, I don't know. It's I guess I think we should be prepared for our president's mortality and so forth. But I don't know. I guess there's that question: the American people have a right to know. I don't know. I think there's a lot of jobs where they have a need or a desire to know about your health before they hire you. If you're on the company health care plan or whatever, pre-existing conditions. I don't know. I haven't been in America since all the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act went into effect, really. But I don't know how that all works anymore. But there are jobs where certain health conditions can preclude you from getting the job, and so if they're serious about your health affects your job possibility. I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I do think like the American people have a right to know, but on the other hand, I think like the American people are not, wise enough or nonpartisan enough to deal with the information, even if they do know. Who was the president in the 1930s or 1940s who was confined to a wheel? Was that Roosevelt? Who was in a wheelchair?
FDR, yes.
Had polio. Nobody. Yeah, nobody knew about it.
People knew people knew and just by code of whatever didn't say anything.
Okay.
It was the same thing with John F. Kennedy's philandering. All the pool reporters around John F. Kennedy knew what was going on, but there was like a gentleman's agreement or whatever that they wouldn't report that. Of course, now today that would never happen, but.
Yeah. Well, I it's kind of interesting to think, like, what would the American people have done if they had known about those things back then? What would their political opponents have done? Would they tried to make hay out of that or not? If they had known? And, it's like almost a different culture and a different society to go back there. But,
although, side note, did you see what Colin Powell said about Bill Clinton?
he's still banging bimbos or whatever in his house. I guess at least he didn't say schlonging, right? That's Donald Trump's word for it.
Is it?
So, well, he said certain female candidates got schlonged when they didn't get or something. So that was, again, it's so hard to keep up with all the ridiculous things he says. That one's kind of fallen by the wayside. But that is something that he said.
I've noticed when you type Donald Trump's name into Google, when it has that little bio box that pops up if you type in a prominent person's name into Google, one of the first things that it lists there in the description is comedian.
Oh, really?
Would you consider him a comedian?
I think he's an unintentional comedian, or either that or he's,
But that's always his defense, is that he's making a joke. You know what I mean? If it goes badly, like when he repeatedly suggests people basically shoot Hillary Clinton when he's like, the Second Amendment people, come on, can we do something here?
Hillary wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. By the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, that will be a horrible day. Now, she's very much against the Second Amendment. She wants to destroy your Second Amendment. Guns, right? I think what we should do is she goes around with armed bodyguards like you have never seen before. I think that her bodyguards should drop all weapons. They should disarm, right? I think they should disarm immediately. What do you think? Yes? Yes. Yeah. Take their guns away. She doesn't want guns. Let's see what happens to her. Take their guns away, okay? It'll be very dangerous.
And then he's like, I just joshing. I'm a comedian.
Yeah, well, his, we just don't have enough sense of humor for it. But kind of like, he's a comedian, kind of like his hand gestures or his exercise, right?
How do you stay healthy on the campaign trail?
Well, it's a lot of work. When I'm speaking in front of 15 and 20,000 people and I'm up there using a lot of motion, I guess in its own way, it's a pretty healthy act. And I really enjoy doing it. A lot of times these rooms are very hot, like saunas. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's a form of exercise, and,
Okay, maybe, yeah. I guess if you really, really, really stretch the definition of exercise and/or comedian.
The batteries just ran out in my recorder. I had to switch them out real quick. So, the other recording's probably fine. I think it saves it before it dies. But if you want to just explain that we're talking about when he was in Mexico.
Oh yeah. Well, Donald Trump's speech when he right after he came back from his meeting with the president of Mexico, and he had avoided talking about the building the wall, or he had mentioned the wall briefly with the Mexican president. And the Mexican president said, "We're not paying for it." He's like, "Okay, we'll talk about it later or something." But he had the nice, quote unquote presidential-looking meeting, the diplomatic-looking meeting in Mexico, and then he came back to Arizona immediately and gave a firebrand speech that was Hitler-esque, I would say. It was just extremely passionate, hand gestures out the wazoo, and he talked about, how we're going to build the wall. They don't know it yet, but we're going to build it. They're going to pay for it. He talks about the cyber, how we're going to detect people with cyber, and he talked about how our detection methods are going to go above and below the wall, under the wall, and he did his hand gesture like a snake, kind of waving underground.
We will build a great wall along the southern border. And Mexico will pay for the wall. Remember. $100%. They don't know it yet, but they're going to pay for the wall. And they're great people and great leaders, but they're going to pay for the wall. On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall. We will use the best technology, including above and below ground sensors, that's the tunnels. Remember that, above and below. Above and below ground sensors. Towers, aerial surveillance, and manpower to supplement the wall, find and dislocate tunnels, and keep out criminal cartels. And Mexico, you know that, will work with us. I really believe it. Mexico will work with us. I absolutely believe it. And especially after meeting with their wonderful, wonderful president today, I really believe they want to solve this problem along with us, and I'm sure they will.
I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that was. I meant to go back and rewatch that speech because it was a heck of a speech.
It was the greatest speech, the best.
Everybody says so.
I'm hearing things.
I think the danger is we're all going to start speaking like this guy now.
I think it's already happening.
There is a certain terse efficiency to the way he describes things.
It's not really efficient though, because he doesn't think of anything before he says it. So he really just constructing sentences out of thin air.
Yeah, well, that's what's efficient about it. You know, good things are good, wonderful, marvelous. Everybody says so, and then bad things are terrible, disaster. You know, disgraceful. I'm sure there's a few adjectives I'm forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting the way he speaks.
Yeah.
So yeah. But the health. What did you make of the Clinton excuses and the situation? And you know, there's even rumors that Democratic staffers were saying that high-level meetings were being held about the possibility of having to replace her, and how probably if they're going to replace her, it's going to be either Tim Kaine or Joe Biden, which I think would be absolute disasters because, they didn't run, they didn't get any votes, they haven't earned it. If it goes to anybody, it has to go to Bernie.
Right.
Obviously. So they better not try any more, shady dealings where they choose who our candidate's going to be, although, as we learned in the primary, nothing should be put past them.
Mm-hmm.
So moving beyond health, I guess, what else has been happening? I mean, Donald Trump renounced birtherism, right?
Did he?
Sort of.
Kind of. Maybe just a little bit.
Well,
not all the way.
He said what everybody else knows, which is Obama was born in America, period. And then he, so I don't think anybody's giving him too much credit for, just coming out and saying what we all know.
Mm-hmm.
But
speaking of documents that we all want released, we all want Trump's tax returns, basically, because I think it's going to prove a lot of things that we know to probably be true about him. He doesn't have as much money as he says he does. He is probably, definitely, almost certainly in bed with Russia, and we already know that. But I feel like he's financing a lot of his debt with Russia, like when no one else will deal with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like investors in his projects.
He probably doesn't pay very many taxes at all.
Probably doesn't pay many taxes. Probably donates $0 a year to charity, despite the claims of...
It's been coming out, yeah.
Have you seen the reporting of the Washington Post reporter David Fahrenthold, I believe that's how you say his name?
What did it pertain to?
his charitable giving or lack thereof. Basically, he went.
I think I've heard summaries of that.
He basically just went through and found every single thing ever associated with Donald Trump that he'd either said he'd give money to, or appeared at an event, even just spoke in front of a group. Any of them. He just made a list of like 250 of all of the ones he could find, and the only one he could find was a $5,000 donation to a local police union, and it might have been a bookkeeping error.
Yeah. Well, he counts it when he hosts when he hosts a charitable event at like his Mar-a-Lago property or whatever down in Florida.
Right. But people give through the Trump Foundation, not him. He's not the one giving the money. And, it's not for nothing that he does that. It's like, yes, he plays a role in getting this money, but it's not him giving the money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like, his whole image that he has cultivated, which has allowed him to be popular, probably a lot of those things would get torn down in a tax release from him. And he says he can't do it because his lawyers told him not to, because he's being what is it?
Audited.
The IRS is auditing him. But somebody pointed out, I forget who it was, the last word was Chris O'Donnell or somebody like that. I forget who it was exactly. Somebody on MSNBC, I think, said he said that actually the IRS is not able to comment on or confirm or deny whether they're auditing anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of like that situation where he attacked that judge. There was Judge Curiel or something like that, the Hoosier judge who was of Mexican descent, which Donald Trump said disqualified him from, judging Trump's case fairly because, he's from Mexico. I'm building a wall. You get it? I'm building a wall. So he's from Mexico. You see? So he can't judge me fairly. Like the similar thing, he attacked the judge, and the judge is not able to fight back or comment because that would ruin the case and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the similar thing is that he says he's being audited by the IRS, and the IRS can't say whether or not that's true. And so some people have called for him to release a note. He would have to, the IRS would send you a note apparently if they were auditing you that would announce the audit. And they said there's no information about the money and stuff, anything in there like that. So, but if he could just produce that note that proves that he's being audited, then that would go a long way to backing up his claims that, even then, the IRS says there's no reason for you to not release your returns when you're being audited, but even the flimsy defense that he's put up would be either substantiated a little bit or totally torn down if he had to prove that he was actually being audited.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it is true. I think a lot of journalists, and if I were a reporter and he said he was being audited, he seems like a guy with money and lawsuits and things going on and all kinds of shady stuff. So like most journalists, I think I would just take him at his word that he is being audited, but I think that that's even an open question, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely could release it. I don't think that's really up for debate. He chooses not to.
Yeah, I don't think most people have asked him to, though.
It's true.
To release the proof, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what else is going on with him? Man, just he's hired, what's her name? Kellyanne Pearson or something, his spokesperson?
Conway.
Kellyanne Conway. Who's the Pearson woman?
I know who you're talking about, I think.
Forget her.
But, yeah.
Yeah. I think she was on one of his shows at some point, like Apprentice or Celebrity Apprentice or something. And now she's the campaign spokeswoman, basically, and she goes on TV and lies and lies and lies and lies. And
Mm-hmm.
just, I don't know, totally crazy. But yeah, Kellyanne Conway is also seems to have. She's a professional. You can't say she's not a total professional when she gets on TV or does an interview, and she is very, very good at putting everything in the best possible light for him, or turning any topic back to Hillary or anything like that. So she's pretty good at what she does. It's unfortunate that she's being used in this capacity to help him. But
herself be used.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a lot of money in it and so forth. But I saw her on Real Time with Bill Maher the other day, and they talked for a good several minutes. Apparently, they've known each other for 20 years, and so he was trying to get her to slip up and admit that this guy's a joke. But she never let the facade drop. So.
Yeah, I saw that interview, or I heard the interview as well.
First up, she is president and CEO of the polling company and campaign manager for you-know-who, Mr. Donald Trump. We thank her for being here. Kellyanne Conway is joining us by satellite. Hey.
Hey, Phil.
Kellyanne, first of all, I have to thank you. You have been doing our show for over 20 years. You were one of our original blonde conservatives, along with Ann Coulter, who's still a friend of mine, to the consternation of many. But you did not give up on us now that you have become Donald Trump's campaign manager. You stuck it out, and I thank you for being here.
I'm happy to go into...
And I must say I have mixed emotions. First of all, you are enabling pure evil, but...
Come on, Bill.
On the other hand, I'm like so proud of you. I mean, you started here. You were just a child star on our show. And now you're perhaps the most important person in the world because you seem to be the only person who's been able to tame Donald Trump. Many have tried, but only you were able to pull that sword out of the stone. How did you do it?
Well, I don't see it that way. I think, look, I walk in the Trump Tower every day to the campaign, and I'm quickly reminded that Donald Trump did very well for himself long before I arrived. I just feel like every leader needs the right environment, the right players around them for them to be them. And he's out there showcasing his generosity, I think his great sense of humor, his love of the country and of people. And, Bill... Hold on.
You're so good at what you do.
Hey, as are you.
That's it. You're so good. I'm so verklempt that you. But plainly,
and this Catholic girl from Jersey knows what that means. But look, I just want to tell you one thing, that you and I have been talking for over 2 decades now, which is a real pleasure and a privilege. Thank you for calling me your friend and for giving me a platform with all those swing voters in your audience tonight.
There are.
I wanted to
No. I mean, there are. There are.
Okay, good. Well, we're persuading them.
We have a much bigger audience than all the other stupid shows that the other politicians do.
And speaking of politicians, Bill, that's what I wanted to say to you.
And I know Donald Trump, because of you, is trying to reach those suburban people. That's our audience. And some of them are on the fence. And that's why I heard today Donald Trump encouraged you to do this show.
He did. I wanted to tell you that. He said to say hello. When he heard I was invited, he said, you have to go on that show. That is true. He did.
Okay. Well,
and
tell
many politicians are afraid to go on your show, but he's not a politician. I actually didn't hear that.
You know, he sued me once.
He did? How'd that go?
Well, as soon as a judge saw it, of course, he laughed and threw it out of court.
Hey, Bill. I'll tell you who's not laughing, though. I got to tell you who's not laughing. I've been to these rallies. I've been to these fairs. This guy has really created a movement, and people feel like they're part of it. And I want to tell you, you and I have been talking for 2 decades about the problem with politicians. This guy's an outsider, a disruptor, a change maker, and he's not running for the reason many people run in politics, which is, it's my turn, I'm next in line, I want money, fame, status, power. He already had all of that. And he and his family are making tremendous sacrifices just to do this. And when I travel around with him, people don't stop him, Bill, and say, I liked you on The Apprentice, or I want your autograph. They say, we need jobs in this state, or please save our country. I know you don't like that, but that's what the people say, and we have to respect people. I'm sure they're watching tonight.
Well, I don't have to respect all the people. I don't.
You do.
And I don't. No, I don't have to respect all the people. I mean, Hillary was right when she called a lot of his supporters deplorable, because a lot of what they believe is deplorable. But we won't even get into that. But I mean,
wrong. But I'm glad we saw her true feelings for once. She doesn't really give them. By the way, she said deplorable just about 12 hours after her campaign said she's going to become more uplifting and aspirational so the voters can see what's in her heart amidst all the cacophony and noise. And what has she done ever since? She's been negative, negative, negative. The Democratic Party I grew up in was always very uplifting and aspirational. They elevated and elected people like JFK and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Her message is anti-Trump. She doesn't have a positive message.
If you were running against Donald Trump, your message would be anti-Trump, too. And by the way, you say, at least she sticks to the facts in her anti-message. Donald Trump has said Hillary will repeal the Second Amendment. Is that your understanding of what she has said in the past? He said she wants to release all violent criminals from jail. She wants to release all of them. Is that what you've heard her say? She wants to repeal the Second Amendment and release violent criminals?
She has actually said that she doesn't like the Heller decision, which was a Supreme Court decision that held that individuals have a private right to bear arms under the Second Amendment. She's pretty hostile to that. She actually has been very critical of President Obama because she thinks he hasn't gone far enough on open borders, and he's deported many people in this country. So, look, Bill, you in 1 hour show, you cover more issues and more substance than she covers in a month. She doesn't talk about issues. Okay. When's the last time she gave a speech on taxes, on the middle class, on education, on health care? She just doesn't do it.
All right, I don't have time to go through all of his lies. We only have an hour. But let's...
I can bat them all down. Go. Let's do it. Come on, Bill.
But let's just divide it for the moment between the scary and the false. Now, let's start with the scary. Hillary said at the end of her convention speech, you can't trust a guy who can be baited with a tweet with nuclear weapons. Okay, just in the last couple of weeks, what he has said is Iranian sailors have made obscene gestures at our boats, so we should blow them out of the water. And that when the Chinese didn't provide the proper red carpet when Obama landed there, he would turn the plane around. Isn't she right? Is he really a man who has the temperament? Honestly, Kellyanne, 20 years of friendship. Is she really the person? Is he the person to be in the Oval Office?
Yes, and by the way, speaking of baited, he is occupying serious real estate in her head. I mean, who's been losing in the polls? Who seems very rattled and not very nimble off of her script these days? As you said in your monologue, what the heck happened? You said it a little bit differently, but I'll clean it up. What the heck happened? I mean, she had this in the bag. Every story was, look at the polls, the race is over. Look at the polls, the race is over. So let's look at the polls now 4 or 5 weeks later. We're winning in some of these swing states that Mitt Romney lost, where she was way ahead, because she thought it would just be a complete blowout, that she just had to bide her time, sit on her lead, wait out the clock. She tried to do that against Bernie Sanders. He won 22 states. She tried to do it against Barack Obama in 2008, and he whooped her and he won. Right. And so I actually think we're going to win, Bill. You know it. You feel it. I think you're getting nervous.
Oh, I am getting nervous. But it's not because Trump is good. It's because people are stupid. That's why I'm getting nervous.
That's something Hillary would say. That's something Hillary
I'll tell you why I'm getting nervous, and I'll do it with a Donald Trump quote from The Art of the Deal. He said, I play to people's fantasies. People want to believe that something is the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular. I call it truthful hyperbole. I call it lying. Here are some lies. I don't know anything about David Duke. Utter lie. Vladimir Putin and I are best friends. He never met him. He got a letter from the NFL, which was proved never happened. He gave money to the veterans when he didn't. I was against the Iraq war when he plainly, it's on tape, said he was not. How do you answer to the fact that this man just says whatever he wants at the moment, in the moment, to get whatever point he wants across, regardless of the facts?
That's not true. You're cherry-picking certain things he said. And on the Iraq War, the timeline is very clear. Well, hold on. He was on Howard Stern's radio show as a private citizen, and Stern asked him, so, hey, should we invade Iraq? What do you think? And he said, well, I guess so. Hillary Clinton proudly went down into the well of the United States Senate and cast her vote in favor of the Iraq War. And by the way, she's been a hawk for many years. The Wall Street Journal wrote about it just this week, that she's always been an interventionist. So the Democrats may not like that. I know you're stuck with a lemon here with 53 days to go, and we're surging, and I'm sorry for that because she has never been somebody who recaptures the momentum. We saw her fall apart in 2008. We saw Bernie Sanders win 22 states and millions of voters just a couple of months ago, Bill. We see Gary Johnson and, in fact, Jill Stein taking votes away from her. She's floundering at 42, 44%. The question is why, and the answer is very simple. A majority of Americans think that she doesn't tell the truth. She's not honest or trustworthy, and a majority don't quite like her. If she does win, she will make history, but not because of her gender only.
Okay, but you're not her.
Never elected a president that a majority of Americans felt was dishonest and untrustworthy.
Okay, but you're not her campaign manager. You're Donald Trump's campaign manager.
I'm all for a female president, but not that one. I don't think it's a hypothetical. It's Hillary.
But also, I mean, you know, in the past, you've worked for people like Newt Gingrich, Fred Thompson, Jack Kemp. I don't agree with a lot of what they say, but they were all serious.
Mike Pence?
Mike Pence. I was trying to keep that out of it.
Make a great vice president.
But, you know, these are all serious people. You don't see a difference between them and Donald Trump. I mean, you have many children. I mean, are you okay with what your children are going to be asking you about supporting a man, enabling a man who did things like make fun of the handicapped and said John McCain wasn't a war hero?
John McCain has endorsed him, and he's endorsed him.
What's that?
They've endorsed John McCain and Donald Trump have endorsed each other in the race. They support each other in the races this year. So, but look, I have no problem saying to my children that I want the future to be better for them, and I already know what Hillary Clinton's going to do. She says it, you have to look at her website to know it, for God's sake. She doesn't even talk about the issues. And that I can't support somebody who lies for a living. I'm not going to be...
lies for a living?
Yes, he does.
You just said you can't support somebody who lies for a living when I read a list of provable lies.
Way ahead. Let's be honest.
I'm
Why
sorry.
is she way ahead? Where's the Democratic blue wall? Where's the electoral map? Wait a second. She's the one who has 66% of Americans saying she's not honest and she's not trustworthy. She has earned that.
But that's what people believe. That's not what is an actual lie or not.
They know she deleted the emails. They know she doesn't tell the truth about her health condition. They know that she doesn't tell the truth. Where are the 33,000 deleted emails? Right. Where are the 17,000
All right, I'll let you go.
Inspector General?
My last question,
yes.
If you guys win, look me in the eye through that camera and tell me you will not actually be more nervous than if Hillary won.
I will not be more nervous if Hillary won. I think, no, I'm with tens of millions of people in this country, Bill, who have joined the Trump movement and have said, you are our last hope because she will tax and regulate. She called ISIS our, quote, determined enemies in her convention speech. Our determined enemies, like we're playing a soccer game against them. They're savage murderers who have killed 33,000 people, them and their predecessors, just in the last 13 years, 80% in the last 3 years. But I will tell you this. Your viewers probably don't know that you and I share a birthday, January 20th, Inauguration Day.
Inauguration Day.
Come as my guest, Bill Maher. We'll see you there.
Please keep me out of Guantanamo Bay. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, Kellyanne Conway.
Thank you.
I got to give it to you. You did it. All right. Let's meet our panel.
Yeah, that worries me more when people who should know better are involved with this guy. You know, you can forgive the rubes, kind of, maybe. You know, people that,
the basket of deplorables, 50%.
I think that was a low estimate, Hillary. Low estimate.
Yeah, I can't believe she walked it back and apologized.
She should not have apologized. That was
election. I think running for president in 2016 means never having to say you're sorry.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right? The racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, you name it. And unfortunately, there are people like that. And he has lifted them up. He has given voice to their websites that used to only have 11,000 people, now have 11 million. He tweets and retweets their offensive, hateful, mean-spirited rhetoric. Now, some of those folks, they are irredeemable, but thankfully they are not America. But the other basket, and I know because I look at this crowd, I see friends from all over America here. I see friends from Florida and Georgia and South Carolina and Texas, and as well as, New York and California. But that other basket of people are people who feel the government has let them down, the economy has let them down, nobody cares about them, nobody worries about what happens to their lives and their futures, and they're just desperate for change. It doesn't really even matter where it comes from. They don't buy everything he says, but he seems to hold out some hope that their lives will be different, that they won't wake up and see their jobs disappear, lose a kid to heroin, feel like they're at a dead end. Those are people we have to understand and empathize with as well.
That's the theme of the election. So, yeah, it was a huge mistake, I think, for Hillary to apologize for that because, I mean, the fact is, some people might say, well, if you're running for president, you have to be president for all people. You can't, say you're not representing some people. But, I mean, Donald Trump is not representing Mexicans. He's not representing African Americans. He's not representing, Muslim Americans. He's not, there's a million people that there's millions and millions of people who Donald Trump is not going to represent if he gets elected. And he doesn't pretend to represent them or be a leader for them in the campaign, and he insults them every chance he gets. So for Hillary to insult Trump voters, let's not pretend that that's not something that's going on both sides. Mm-hmm. And if I had a problem with it, I think like a basket of deplorables is just such a weird phrasing. And deplorable is it's so weird when you watch people talk about this on the news because they're like, well, can we really call his supporters deplorables? I mean, is that can we call them that? Are they that? I mean, maybe they're maybe they're not racist. Maybe they're just, they feel left behind by this economy, whatever that means. Well, maybe they feel that, but maybe they're also racist. And if they're racist, does that make them deplorable? I mean, can a news anchor, factually state that racism is deplorable? I mean, I think most people would agree that's true, but beyond it being true, it is obviously an opinion, right?
But the context in which she said this apparently was a private fundraiser to people that paid buku dollars to hear her say that. So that audience that she was speaking to in that moment, maybe that does resonate with them, that phrase, basket of deplorables. That's such a weird phrase. It hurts to say that. Yeah. It's weird. But it's kind of like Mitt Romney's 47% comment in the 2012.
But with less racism. Yeah.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they are entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it. But it's an entitlement, and the government should give it to them. And they will vote for this president no matter what. And I mean, the president starts off with 48, 49, 40, he starts off with a huge number. These are people who pay no income tax. 47% of Americans pay no income tax. So our message of low taxes doesn't connect. And he'll be out there talking about tax cuts for the rich. I mean, that's what they sell every 4 years. And so my job is not to worry about those people. I'll never convince them that they should take personal responsibility and care for their lives. What I have to do is convince the 5 to 10% in the Senate that are independent, that are thoughtful, that look at voting one way or the other depending upon, in some cases, emotion, whether they like the guy or not.
I agree in that it was something that was said behind closed doors and got leaked, but I don't agree that it's equally despicable. I mean, he was saying, like, basically poor people or minorities are used to being on the government seat, as it were, and were never going to vote for a Republican because they'd be kicked off the government seat. So he wasn't going to try to get them. But I think if what Hillary was saying is that she's not going to represent a bunch of racists, well, good for her. I think that's a good thing to say, actually. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
I think that
the alt-right has taken over the Republican Party at this point.
Yeah. I still am not entirely clear what that even means, the alt-right. I mean, it's like, what, Republicans that are tech-savvy or something, or Republicans who acknowledge their own racism, I mean, and embrace it? I mean, what is the alt-right exactly? It's
just dressed up racism. That's all it is. I mean, it's just the same old Nazi. If you encountered the Pepe the Frog meme.
I read about it. I saw some things about it. I don't normally find myself in the areas of the internet where it might come up in the context that it's being used these days, I guess.
Well, you do not administer any comment sections. I do.
Oh boy!
So I've seen it.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Turn off comments. My background photo on Facebook is never read the comments.
Yeah. It's I mean, there's Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? So writing for the Atlantic, author of Between the World and Me.
Best book I read in 2015.
I haven't read it, but I almost picked it up at the bookstore, English language bookstore up in Seoul a few weeks ago.
You should read it.
I think he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pick it up. But he used to be somewhat famous on the Atlantic for actively engaging with his comment section. But for the past 6 months or so, I've noticed that his articles don't even have a comment section anymore. He totally disabled it. So
I love it.
I think the trolling and the stupidity and the racism,
too much.
He got sick of dealing with it, probably.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you touch on race in America. People have all sorts of feelings in the comment section about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, Pepe the Frog is basically some kind of Nazi, and also the Nazi on Twitter category uses, I don't know about other places, this is probably springing from 4chan, apparently, so like the sewers of the internet, where anime characters are used as profile pictures.
Okay.
There's like a Nazi, they have like Nazi like fan art, Japanese animation. It's very strange. But anyway, this Pepe the Frog thing has become a meme for the quote unquote alt-right, which is just another way to say, I think they used to call them John Birch people, maybe. The John Birch
Society was like a
society.
A fiercely anti-communist right-wing organization in the 1950s and 60s. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, maybe that doesn't describe all of it, but I think that certainly comes from the fringe of, it was like the Barry Goldwater version of the Republican Party, and then there was the other version, I don't know, like the Rockefeller Republicans. The old school, but then whatever. It was always a part of the party that they tried to like minimize, and now it's the inmates have taken over the asylum because they condescended to them for so long, and then they just said, "We're just gonna tip the chessboard over like this guy just to shake it up." Whatever.
Yeah. And I think there was something about, as far as Democratic strategy, there was something about Hillary was saying that, Donald Trump was an aberration and he was not representative of the Republican Party, and she wanted to, take votes from Republicans who are reasonable and stuff, and everybody was kind of screaming at her, don't say that, we need to tie all the, congressional or senatorial Republican candidates to Donald Trump as much as possible right now. So you may think that you're helping yourself, but you're actually hurting all the down ballot people.
Mm-hmm.
And was it Reince Priebus or something? I think within the last 24 hours, he said that all Republicans need to support Trump.
That's ridiculous.
So
he's the biggest, one of the bigger sellouts of this whole story is Reince Priebus. Like, you let the Republican Party, this happened to the quote unquote party of Lincoln on your watch.
Yeah.
Thanks for going along with it. Thanks for putting up no fight.
Yeah. I think I'd like to think this will irreparably damage the Republican Party, but I don't think it will, because they just seem to be able to bounce back from things, Like, I mean, I think that they should have been deeply shamed by the Bush presidency, and they should have, done some changes, but they didn't. I mean, they, with Mitt Romney, they tried to, after his loss, they tried to do the study about why they lost and what they need to change, and they didn't change that. And I think, like, every 4 years or whenever there's an election, they, it's like a fresh start. It's like, okay, well, this year they're offering somebody who's pretty reasonable. Never mind, the long-term trends of the things that they actually endorse and support in this party and what they've tried to do in the past and what they've done in the past. So, I think Americans don't have a very long historical memory. So,
yeah, that's definitely true.
I think, what's his name? Turd Blossom, Karl Rove. He talked about in 2004 or sometime back then, he was talking about how he was going to make the Republicans a permanent majority party. And I think that obviously didn't happen, but I don't think it could happen on the Democratic side either. I think
maybe not nationally, but they're doing very local and statewide level well.
The Republicans?
Yeah. Republicans have taken over the state houses and the local jurisdictions. Yeah, it's kind of a problem.
It's a big problem. Kind of a disaster.
Big, huge problem.
Yeah.
Because, as we all know, whoever is in charge gets to draw the district lines. And guess what you have then?
Yeah.
Gerrymandering, which basically keeps people in office for life most of the time. 90% of seats are basically uncontested because of gerrymandering. Because they just... It's called stacking and cracking. I'm sorry, I could go on all day about this. I've reported on it before. It's a terrible, terrible thing.
It kind of makes a mockery of democracy, really.
Really, really does. Anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about with Trump or Clinton or this crazy election? I mean, so much to say.
Yeah, I guess sorry, I'm kind of sounding a little down or whatever today. It's just, today, I mean, a few days ago during my vacation time, I was staying awake until 6 o'clock in the morning, and this morning I had to do a complete 180, and I had to wake up at 6 a.m. So I'm kind of dragging, getting back into the work swing here now. But But I was going to say there was a New York Times article I read just a couple days ago, and I was very encouraged. It was like the top story in the title was like something like Clinton to do outreach to voters going towards third parties, right? Because a lot of people are going toward the Libertarian or the Green Party right now, especially Democratic voters. And, so I was like, oh, good. Is she finally going to, try to get some left-wing votes by doing some policy or something that's going to, bring us back into the fold? Is she going to give me an excuse to vote for her? Because right now, I don't know if I'm 100% Bernie or bust or not. I don't know if I'm going to vote Green or vote for Clinton, but
you're turning into, give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I feel like we've all been slapped in the face about 50 times by Hillary Clinton, but we need, she needs to do something. I mean, I know she's come partway around on a couple of positions towards the Sanders view and stuff, but so, I read the article and I'm looking for any kind of a substantive, is she throwing us any bone at all? And when I read the article, I was infuriated because they said that actually what's happening, what her outreach is going to be is that she's initiated a multi-million dollar ad buy campaign to run ads to tell third-party voters that a vote for any third party is a vote for Donald Trump, which is stupid. and everybody's aware that if we're not voting for Hillary Clinton, that does to some degree increase his chances, and it does hurt her. But that we don't need to be shamed or reminded of that or anything like that. You need to come and get our votes. That's your job. Well, you've had a million chances to do it. You chose Tim Kaine over Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren as your vice president, which was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a concrete move toward the, perhaps moderate Republicans or the Wall Street types who like that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You need to make concrete moves toward the left wing of the party to get our votes. Otherwise, it does continue to be Bernie or bust. I don't think she understood. I don't think anybody really understood in the primary before the convention that Bernie or bust was a real thing, and that, no, we're saying we're not going to vote for her. We're not going to change that 2 weeks later when she wraps up the convention here. It's, if she doesn't, number one, if she doesn't make some strong commitments that she can't go back on. So I was just absolutely infuriated by that article, because she's not serious about getting our vote. She's not serious about, doing things that we want her to do. She's, she just thinks that she can advertise her way out of the problem, which is just so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with the student loan situation with a lot of people in our generation, I think, if she had said she's going to donate millions of dollars to helping people with debt relief from student loans, that would be a concrete step. And, millions of dollars make a big difference for a lot of people. If she did something like that, I think a lot of Bernie supporters would say, hey, okay, that's a substantive move, and that's a good use of the millions of dollars that she's spending.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe we're going to give her another look, give her another hearing. But no, she's spending the money, millions of dollars, on advertising to just basically tell us something that we already know that she thinks, that, if we don't vote for her, we're supporting Donald Trump tacitly.
Mm-hmm.
So that article just absolutely infuriated me. So again, and then of course you go down to the comment section and, people are mad about it. And then of course you have the Hillary supporters saying, oh, look at all these Trump voters. Oh, look at them. And I'm like, yeah, keep going, guys. You're going to get our votes eventually if you keep insulting us like this. So right now, I don't know what's worse. I don't know if it's Hillary or her supporters.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I mean, right now, Trump and Hillary are pretty close to running neck and neck. I mean, I think she might be up 1 or 2 points, but I've also seen certain polls. I think the Los Angeles Times or something had one that has him up by several, up to maybe 6 points up, which seems high. But
yeah. Well, this has echoes of Brexit for me. And I'm not the first one to make this point by any means, but everyone was so convinced that Remain would win.
Not going to happen.
People just got complacent, and then guess what? Surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, your vote actually matters, but yeah. But I mean, does anybody have any doubt right now that if Bernie was the candidate, if he was the nominee, that this is where the polling would be right now? Is there any doubt that he wouldn't be wiping the floor with Donald Trump at this point in the election?
All Bernie would have had to do is what we all know he could have done, is just stay on message and remain focused on his issues and let Donald Trump do the crazy Tasmanian devil thing he does. And just kind of let it happen and burn out in front of him and just, sail on. Because we all know he would have won against Trump. They even said that for months. Nobody disputed that back before the nomination was decided.
Hillary supporters said, oh, no, he hasn't really been attacked. And they'll say he's a socialist, and that'll drive his numbers down.
Mm-hmm.
And that may have driven numbers down in some places, but I think all of the independent support that Trump has gotten and all of the, kind of anti-establishment vibe that he's been tapping into would have been nullified by Bernie Sanders, who's a real outsider, not having money in politics kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the Democratic Party is so stupid. They thought that they could push her on everybody and we just accept it and vote for her because the alternative is unthinkable. And they thought that the alternative is so unthinkable that there's no way she'll lose to this guy. And now they're looking at the polls and they're going, oh, my God, she could lose to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's too late now. You can't switch her out. I mean, unless this health thing has legs. But I don't think it does. I think, she's going to heal up, and which is good, but at the same time, I think there's a question with Bill Clinton saying that these fainting spells have happened many, many times. What is that about? I mean, what is that about? How many times does it happen? Why does it happen? When does it happen? What effect will that have? Like if she's negotiating a deal with international groups like Putin or Iran or whoever, I mean, and she just collapses or something. I mean, how's that going to play? What's going to happen? So I think a lot of left-wing people are very frustrated with Bernie Sanders to some degree for, he's going out there and doing what he has to do as a Clinton surrogate now, which is say, guys, this is not the year to vote for a third party. You really got to support her. I know a lot of things got said in the primary. We got to support her now. But I think both for him and for Elizabeth Warren, I think both of their brands were tarnished a little bit when they saddled up to Hillary Clinton.
Ain't that the way?
I think that knocked the shine off of both of them a little bit.
That's how it happens to people around the Clintons.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people were very angry that Debbie Wasserman Schultz's primary challenger, Tim Canova, did not, in the end, get the support from Bernie Sanders, aside from the monetary support he'd done already as far as fundraising. But Tim Canova in his last week there, he asked Bernie Sanders, he said, Bernie, please come down to Florida and, give a speech or something. Give me some support down here. And Bernie didn't do it, and Tim Canova lost, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz held on to her corrupt little fiefdom down there in Florida. And it's just, it's all very, very, very disappointing for liberals, I think.
Definitely. It's amazing that some people can fail upwards like that.
Yeah. And, I think most people don't like Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I mean, Republicans have been complaining about her for years for whatever reason. But Democrats have been given a serious reason to complain about her in the last year. Mm-hmm. And she still wins her election, I think a lot of people, a lot of voters are very lazy. It's just like they're used to seeing this name on the ballot, and that name is aligned with their party that they identify with, and they don't really get into the details of what the person's done or what their behavior has been. And I have a feeling that's why, to a large degree, I have a feeling that's why Hillary Clinton won the primary. It's just because people are like, oh, Clinton's the front runner. She's the Democratic candidate. We've known about her for years, and that's just who we're going to vote for. We don't really pay attention to what she's done or what the issues that have been brought up against her are. So, yeah. Anyways, I think these are some things I'm thinking about these days. What's going on with domestic politics there in Indiana these days? Anything new?
There's a horrible opiate crisis in America.
Oh, yeah.
Just everywhere. Anyway, just a really scary drug problem in America with, hard, weird drugs. Just scary.
I've been out of America for so long, I haven't really come face to face with any of that stuff. But
there's an overprescription problem with doctors overprescribing opiates.
Yeah, and from what I understand, though, I mean, in the states that have legalized marijuana, this kind of thing has been almost totally avoided, or the deaths are going down, the addiction rates are going down to hard drugs, and all this kind of stuff. Violent crime is going down. Tax revenue for the states is going up. So, hopefully that's something that they'll eventually get around to in Indiana. Although I'm not holding my breath, but that's the solutions. I think it's very frustrating to watch things that are problems like, we look at what's going on in the Philippines with this Duterte guy or whatever, who, is basically, Bob, did you ever watch those movies, The Purge? And The Purge Anarchy was the sequel, and then The Purge Election.
I only saw the original Purge. I've only seen the first one.
Well, I recommend the 2 sequels as well, especially Election Year was an outstanding. I mean, there were some problems. There was a little bit of misogyny, I think, in it, but at the same time, it did a very good job of, talking about politics in America in a very, I think a lot of movies, when they have political debates or anything like that, they're very careful not to say who's Republican or who's a Democrat. But they were pretty clear that it's a new form of national government in the movies, obviously, with the new founding fathers or whatever is the political party. But they're pretty clear that those are kind of proto-Republicans or some neo-Republicans or something versus the main female character, protagonist woman, who's kind of like her family was victimized by the purge situation and stuff, and so she is campaigning against it, and she comes across as kind of like a Hillary Clinton / Bernie Sanders kind of hybrid or something. So it was an intensely political movie. I'd heard about these movies and I thought it was kind of more torture porn type of situation or something, but I think those movies are actually incredibly smart. There's a lot of subtext, a lot of stuff going on in them and stuff. Mm-hmm. But in kind of a case of, art imitates life, basically, or life imitates art, I suppose, Duterte has basically legalized citizens killing citizens throughout the Philippines. If they can say that somebody else was a drug dealer or even a drug user, they can kill them. And wow. There's no charges.
That's messed up.
Yeah, and so you see entire countries instituting drug policies like this that don't work, and then you see countries in Europe that have a sensible drug policy where addiction has been pushed way down. Drug treatment is a thing that is taken care of on a health perspective rather than a criminal justice perspective, and then you see places like Colorado or whatever in America where it's working out similarly. And so it's so maddening when you see solutions that work and have been proven to work and solutions that don't work and have been proven not to work and have created huge problems in the societies that institute them. And, it never happens in America. It just doesn't happen. Like, everybody's like, well, we can't do that. That may work over there for this reason or that reason, but it's not going to work here. We can't try it. We're not going to do it. So, yeah, very frustrating. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I recommend watching the Purge movies. I think if you look at them, I mean, okay, when you saw the first one, what was your take on it? What was your what's the Rob Burgess review of the original Purge movie?
I kind of perceived it to be in the Saw category. Not torture porn exactly, but some sort of like bizarre wish fulfillment of like pain, and delivering pain onto other people.
Okay, did you see the movie? There was a Korean movie, or maybe it was a Hollywood movie with a Korean director called Snowpiercer.
I've heard of it. I've not seen it.
It was called like Sogum-Yolta or something like that. Something train, kind of snow train or something like that. But anyways, that movie had a conceit about it that was very similar to, I think it was an Ursula K. Le Guin or something novel or short story that I read that was written maybe back in the 70s or something. And this story I read back in college was called The People Who Walk Away from Omelas. It was a short story, kind of a sci-fi futuristic thing, and basically the whole story was just describing a society. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so the society was very similar, and the society was basically perfect. Crime had been reduced, and there was enough food for everyone. Everyone's needs were provided for. It was a peaceful society, and the children were brought up in a very carefree way, and everything was great for everybody in the society. But when the children came of age, they were taken to a small shed that was very dirty and very decrepit and not in good condition. And when they went inside, they saw that there was one child who was kept in a horrible situation, abject poverty, starving, tortured, not treated well, and everything like this. And it was revealed that this was the price that society had to pay to have all the nice things and to be a good, successful society. And after that, most of the children were able to reconcile that. They were just able to say, okay, well, if that's the cost, it's too bad for that kid, but I want to continue to live in this great society of Omelas. But then they said that some of the kids would, when they finished that viewing, they would turn and they would walk away from the city and they would never return.
Mm-hmm.
And so the title of the story was the people who walk away from Omelas. And so that story, like when I watched The Purge, I mean, when I read reviews, I love, one of my favorite things after I watch a movie, whether I love it or hate it, is to, go into RottenTomatoes.com or go into IMDb or whatever and just see what other people think. Go onto YouTube, wherever, and just see what other people think of the movie and what their reviews are. And almost all of the critical reviews, and there were a lot of critical reviews of The Purge, were that it's just not realistic. They're like, this wouldn't happen. It's not realistic. This wouldn't happen. This is just unrealistic. Like, people wouldn't do this and stuff. But I think, like, maybe we as American viewers have kind of lost the ability to watch a movie and view it as an allegory. Like, we have to think it is something that could be realistic or that could literally happen. Otherwise, we can't engage with it,
Uh-huh.
But for me, when I watched this movie, it reminded me of that story that I read, the short story that I read back in college, and I was like, okay, so this doesn't all have to be taken literally.
Mm-hmm.
This is a situation where this guy works for a company that provides security for people who are wealthy enough to pay for the security, but to some degree that security is an illusion, and he will be punished, and his family will be sad because he'll die. I mean, spoiler alert. You might want to, Bob, in the description for this episode, tell them there are spoilers for the Purge movie.
Oh, wait. You can do it yourself. Listen, well, hold on. Let me direct this right now. All right, future me, Rob. When you're editing this, we're starting the intro to the episode right now. Go, Cha.
Hi, this is Big Daddy Cha-Cha, and today in this episode we're going to be talking about many things, a lot about American politics and the developments in the campaign since the respective conventions of the Democratic and Republican primaries. But I should also warn you that the subject of the movie The Purge will come up, and there will be spoilers for the movie The Purge. So if you have not watched The Purge, or perhaps its sequels, The Purge Anarchy or The Purge Election Night, then you may want to stop listening at the time we start talking about The Purge. You have been warned.
Cool. And cut. Right. Yeah, that's good. So anyway, what were we saying about?
Well, yeah. Well, I was just saying like that, so I view The Purge not necessarily as a strict literal, this is society, and these are real people, and this is exactly what would happen. But I looked at it as kind of a view of, okay, there are rich people in society who make money from things like perhaps, selling weapon systems to countries outside of America, like Saudi Arabia or Israel or, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really care if those weapon systems are being deployed against perhaps innocent people in Yemen or Palestine or wherever, just any country you want to, you could practically, I don't want to say you could throw a dart at the map, but there are a lot of places in the world where American weapon systems are being used against perhaps in ways that we should not approve of. And so I thought the character, Rafe Fiennes' character, he feels like he's an innocent guy. He didn't start the Purge, but he's making money off of selling, protection to rich people for their houses.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that way, he is to some degree culpable in this.
That's true.
And then the poor people are trying to escape. A young black man is being chased by a group of people who want to kill him. And so there's a racial component to it, a class component to it, and just a thing that, okay, some people have a good society, some people have a good life, and some people the society works for, and other people, everybody else is left outside in a crazy, crazy world that's just deadly. And I think on that allegorical level, I think that's the level at which this movie really works for me. And the sequels didn't really do anything to turn me away from that interpretation.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to revisit that series.
Yeah, and check out the short story, the people who walk away from Omelas, too. It's a quick read, but it is impactful. But the Snowpiercer also was another story where the train, these people start at the back of the train, and they start a revolution because they're being horribly treated back there. They're basically the poor people in society. And they move through different cars, and they move through basically the middle class, and finally they get to the upper class. That's on the train. And then when they get to the front of the train, they open up under where the engine is, and they find a young child being forced to work inside the engine, who has been kidnapped from the back of the train. And he's been forced to work in the engine because he's so small that he can sit there, and his life is not good and everything. And that's kind of what it takes to make this train continue to run. And maybe we should have mentioned that there will also be spoilers for Snowpiercer. Although this movie was 4 or 5 years ago, so maybe if you haven't seen it by now, that's kind of not my fault.
Hey, when we went to go see the Joss Whedon version of Much Ado About Nothing, Ash made me promise that I wouldn't spoil Shakespeare for her. So apparently 400 years sometimes isn't even enough.
Yeah. Yeah, some spoiler warnings are timeless.
But anyway.
Yeah, it really gets me. Sometimes I'll be watching, like, I try to keep up with, Game of Thrones or something like that. And a bunch of websites will be putting on their website, like, Jon Snow, he's dead. Or Jon Snow died, or Jon Snow's not really dead. We saw tonight. I'm like, why the hell are you posting this kind of stuff in the header for your article? I mean, and they're like, well, it aired like 8 hours ago, so people would have watched it, we think. It's, spoiler warnings. People have got to be very careful about that. So, yeah. Oh, by the way, I've been trying to catch up. I hadn't heard episodes for a little while, so I listened to some of your recent episodes, and I heard Ash's one about the Halloween and kind of the scary movies and stuff, and I was just kind of nodding my head along because a lot of my experiences with some of those things were quite similar, as far as, like, my parents also kind of, there were certain things that they weren't, like, conservative at all, but there were certain movies that a lot of people got to see that I didn't get to see because they were, sexual or violent, or they had bad messages about family or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of, I definitely, and for me also, the original Scream was one of the first really, horror movies that I saw that was kind of like, I went to the video store, I think it was the Bookery. Was it there, the Bookery in Mitchell?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
You remember that place, the old VHS place there on, I forget what street it was even on, what the name of the street was, but yeah, that was a place. Mm-hmm. And I picked up Scream, and I went home and watched it, and I was like, it's kind of at the house, nobody else was there, and I was like, oh man, I'm really doing it. I'm watching a scary movie all by myself. I hope it's not too scary. And it wasn't too scary, but it was an outstanding movie, and to some degree, it did kind of ruin old classic horror, which I went back and watched a lot of later, like Halloween's and all this kind of stuff, Friday the 13th and stuff. And after you've seen a self-aware version of one of those movies, it's kind of hard to go back and appreciate the originals for what they really were at the time. But I thought Scream was an outstanding movie. Totally agreed with Ash. The first sequel, Scream 2, was still an outstanding movie, but the third and fourth were just total crap. Mm-hmm. So I think, every movie or every movie series or every TV show, eventually they have to go one of two places, which is either Los Angeles or New York, right? Everything has to be about L.A. or New York. And I think by the third and fourth, they had gotten into Los Angeles and stuff, and it was all about Hollywood and the movie industry and how yada, 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 yada. It just became very self-indulgent for the Hollywood types, I think. Mm-hmm. Another recent case of that has been the Walking Dead is now spun off into Fear the Walking Dead, which is a new version of the show, which is not set in the rural South in Georgia and Virginia and Washington, D.C. and these kinds of places. Now it was set in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's a whole different...
by now they've moved down into Mexico. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They've moved to Mexico and stuff, but I just, I'm so frustrated with that show because, of course, it has to be Los Angeles. We've got a good story with a unique environment and everything that's set in a place that stories are not usually set here. But let's take that story and just transplant it into this city where every movie takes place, So frustrating. And another thing that's really frustrating is now that they're down in Mexico, none of these people in this family speak Spanish. I'm like, you lived in Los Angeles and you don't speak Spanish? What kind of family is this? I mean, I don't know. It's so frustrating to watch. Mm-hmm.
Or they'll do the selective Spanish where it's like, ayúdame.
Yeah. Oh, gracias. Yeah. Hola. ¿Qué tal? No, I think I'm ¿Qué tal? They don't say that, but like, I mean, yeah, these are...
They do sometimes.
Yeah. But
abuelita. Abuelita. Isn't that grandmother?
Yeah. Yeah. Habla inglés? Oh, good, you do. Okay. My Spanish is terrible at this point too. It used to be pretty good in like high school and college, I think, but I haven't used it for years. I haven't used it for a decade at least, and so it's a disaster. But I'm just saying, I've never been to LA, but I mean, for people who live in LA or have lived in LA, I mean, I don't know. Would you say that? I would say that probably I would guess that more people statistically in LA have to speak Spanish than they do in the rest of the country in most places. I mean, would that be a fair thing to say, or is it true that in Los Angeles, like most of the country, a lot of people just can't speak Spanish?
Well, no. I mean, you have to consider that California in general is like that. My brother.
Yeah. More people speaking Spanish.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My brother lives in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And his son he knows Spanish, learning Spanish. You know, it's part of the curriculum that they're putting him through. Because it's if you live in California, it's better to know Spanish.
Yeah.
Straight up.
And so, I mean, and even for me, somebody from like rural North Carolina and Indiana, like I studied Spanish from 5th grade all the way through college. So, you know, it's so frustrating to see situations where, like, the characters go to Mexico and they're like, oh, I can't speak Spanish. Oh, I lived in Los Angeles my whole life, but what's this? Now I need this language, and how could I have ever known that I would have needed to study this? What did I study in high school? It's very frustrating.
It really is.
So, yeah, The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead are two shows that I kind of hate watch.
What else do you hate about them? What else do you hate about Walking Dead?
The acting. I mean, the acting is horrible. And I don't know if we can even totally... I don't completely blame the actors. I blame the writers, because the writers have written this show in a way that, like, you know, when you watch... Bob, I keep wanting to tell you, go watch The Wire. Because The Wire was a show where, or even, you know, The Sopranos also to some degree, where people have natural conversations, right? People have conversations about things that are going on in their life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that ties into the plot. Often that ties into the plot, but a lot of times it's kind of just the mood, the atmosphere, the relationships, the character building. All that stuff gets taken care of in these kinds of just normal everyday conversations. Mm-hmm. But there's another style of television, which is what, you know, The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead firmly fall into that style, which is there's no natural conversation. Everybody talks exactly the same. Like, people, everything's a power game. Everybody, I know something that you don't know. I have more power than you. I have more knowledge than you at this moment, and that may change later, but right now, the whole dynamic of the scene is turning on the fact that one character has more knowledge than another character, or, you know, oh, these three people, like the mom, the dad, and the older brother, know that zombies are real, and that when a person dies, they come back as a zombie, but they're not going to tell the sister because they don't want to worry her. So she's going to go off and do something stupid because they didn't warn her about something that any other family member, you would absolutely warn a family member about. You know, it's just like anybody would tell their kids this, hey, this is what's going on, and you need to be very careful. But for like several episodes, they didn't tell the sister what was going on. So she's kind of like, you know, going into the neighbor's house without any good reason because nobody told her that, like, the neighbor who committed suicide is going to come back as a zombie and attack her. It's just like, it's just, there's no reason for them not to have told this person, except for the fact that the writers are lazy and they want to set up a plot point later, like a scare, a jump scare that they can do because this character has imperfect knowledge, because these characters don't share knowledge like real people would. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, just like a million moments like that. At one point, I think in the first episode of Fear the Walking Dead, like there was a case where the husband and wife were on the what is the expressway that goes around LA or whatever, the 405 or the 105 or what is it?
Well, the 5 is the major north-south highway. So anytime it's around a city, they put a 4 in front of it, like 465 in Indianapolis is a 4 because it goes around the city, but it is Highway 65 ostensibly. You know what I mean? So it's Highway 5, but it goes around LA. It's the 405.
Okay, well, they're on the highway or whatever, and they're going on an exit ramp and stuff. But the police have stopped somebody up ahead, and they don't really know what's going on, and they hear gunshots, and some motorcycle drives by, and so they get out of there. They get back on the highway, and they go home a different way. And the next day at school, the husband's a teacher, and the wife is like a guidance counselor at the school. Like, they see a whole bunch of kids, and the principal are watching this video from that scene that they were just right next to the night before, where, like, this guy is on the ground after a car accident or whatever, and the emergency medical, the EMT is like administering to him, and then he grabs and bites the EMT, and then the police come, and he stands up and he's walking towards the police, and they start beating him, and he doesn't fall down, and then they shoot him, and he falls down, and he gets back up, and he attacks them and bites some more people, and then finally they shoot him in the face. And so the two parents who are watching this, they're like, halfway through this video, they're like, oh, wow, this is interesting. Okay, we got to go to our class, or we got to go do something. We got to go do something important right now. So they stop watching the video and they run away from that scene. I'm like, no, if you were right there, you're going to watch this scene to find out exactly what happened. You're not going to walk off to like figure out something about the school. It's just like, this is another show where just, people, I don't know, it drives me crazy. Have you watched any of it at all?
The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead?
Fear.
I've seen 1, maybe 2 episodes of Fear. I have seen how many seasons of The Walking Dead are there right now?
I think there have been about 6, I believe.
Okay, I think I'm at least 2 seasons behind, because I really haven't watched it in a major way since the kid was born.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it really cuts down on my Walking Dead time.
That's why I stay single.
That for just to watch The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I find it's very rewarding. No, but I understand. Like when you have little ones, like you do have to give up on certain forms of entertainment or something.
Well, especially because he repeats everything now, and he sees things, and he not only does he take it in, he spits it back out. So if he sees some crazy stuff, he's not afraid to say or do anything in front of anybody at this point. So if he hears something, he'll repeat it. So you have to be careful what he might repeat around who, when. Yeah. So
if he screams, you got to shoot him in the head. Mm-hmm. That might raise a few eyebrows at the cocktail party. But like when you watch, are you aware of these? What I'm saying, like this kind of a show where the acting is just very utilitarian, just to get you to the next plot point that feels very contrived.
Yeah.
I think even another show, Friday Night Lights. I know you like that one. I liked it a lot too, and I think that was another show where the acting was more naturalistic, and everything was not always pushing directly towards some plot point. It was like these were real people who were, living their lives, and the story unfolds around them.
Well, it's kind of what you were saying before. The dialogue is allowed to breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
But doesn't really get that opportunity. It's like the oppressive heat of the zombie apocalypse is always there, so it's always like, Carl! So.
Yeah. Oh God, Carl. He's the worst actor of the bunch, and they should have killed his character just to get rid of that actor. It's horrible. He's so horrible. It's like he's just always like, I'm a man, Dad. I ain't scared, Dad. Let me shoot him, Dad. I can shoot him. It's like, okay, Carl. Yeah, you're a man. Now die already. Because he's just a bad actor. Like I said earlier, I think I give a lot of excuses to the actors because I know a lot of the actors on that show. Tyrese. Well, not Tyrese. What was his name? I can't think of his name because they kind of like mixed up the characters who were in the original comic and stuff, and so they had. God, what was their name? There was one black guy who was with them from the beginning, basically, when they got to Atlanta, but then he got killed. And then they brought in another African-American character who was, kind of like he was like really, really big and strong and everything, and he had his daughter with him and stuff, and she's still alive. But he died a couple seasons ago and stuff, and so I get their names confused. But like, he's an outstanding actor. In like the third or fourth season of the Wire, he played a guy named Cuddy, and he was an outstanding, just a great character. He was kind of a reformed murderer. He'd been in prison for like 20 years and stuff, and he used to be just an absolutely cold killer who, killed people in the street, and then apparently he called the police and told them, hey, come down here to this street and this street right now because I just killed this guy. Come pick him up and everything. But he goes to jail, and you don't know him until he comes out of jail, and he comes back to the neighborhood, and he's just a really mellow, relaxed, kind of reformed, wants to do different things with his life, and he briefly kind of gets pulled back into the gang stuff, but then he gets out. And you think, in these kinds of shows, you think it's going to be a thing where he eventually gets pulled back under, but he really gets his life on the straight and narrow and triumphs and stuff. And in a way, his character is very inspirational. I think it was in the fourth season that he really kind of had his arc. But so that character is really good. There's another African American character on there. I forget his name also, unfortunately. But he played. He played the nephew of, he was Barksdale's nephew. I forget the guy's name exactly, something Barksdale. But he was also a very good actor. So, I've seen several actors from the Wire who I know are outstanding actors who can do amazing work, and they're just totally wasted on The Walking Dead.
Right.
I mean, every conversation on The Walking Dead, like, whenever people ask him, like, where's your family? You used to be with your family. We saw you last time you were with your family. They just get, like, really sad. And they're like, I can't talk about it. It's too painful. Like, I can understand some people might react that way, but I don't think that everyone would. But on The Walking Dead, because they don't have, like, a variety of writers or something, or they have, like, the whole thing was written by one person, it feels like, which the comic kind of was. But, like, I think I would, in that situation, I'd tell them exactly what happened. Yeah, I love them dearly, but, like, yeah, they got eaten back in this town. Yeah, I did this and they did that, and then the zombies came, and then this happened exactly. It was horrible. I would just straight up tell them, but, like, on The Walking Dead, nobody ever tells anybody exactly what happened. They're all just like, it's too painful. I can't even recount it. But I'm strong. I'm too weak to talk about it, but I'm still strong, right? And so I just don't like the way all the characters are behaving the same way, because at the end of the day, the show doesn't really have time for characters. So. Mm-hmm. Anyways, yeah, we're getting into some pretty deep television criticism here, I guess. But,
Well, do you think it's like you say, did you read the comic books first?
I read the comic books, I believe, when I came back to America in late 2007, early 2008 for the first time. I went to the Monroe County Library up there in Bloomington, and I checked out several of the comics. I think I read about something like, I don't know how many were even out back then, but I read something like, well, anyways, at some point I was able to read more of them in Korea too, and I basically read comics 1 through 100. And so I had a pretty good head start on the show. On the show, the first season I thought was pretty good, but I just don't think they, I think there were problems that were always there because they were kind of slaves to the storyline more than to the characters. And it's really weird because everybody has favorite characters. Like, there are people I sort of care about on the show, but, like, people are like, Glenn, I love Glenn, or gosh, I love Daryl. And I'm like, these characters are utterly two-dimensional. I mean, what's Daryl's character about? Okay, he was abused by his brother, he was brought up as a racist, and he's very good with a crossbow. That's all you need to know about his character.
Also, his hair looks better and better the worse things go for them. If you say so. But, I mean, maybe he's a good actor. Like, I'm not besmirching his acting at all, because I don't think this show is a show for actors to, really showcase what they can do. But, like, for people to say he's a good actor, like that Norman Reedus or something like his name, I mean, everybody's obsessed with how great he is. I think even the creators of Metal Gear Solid are making a new video game
based around his character. They basically created a character that looks exactly like him or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's weird to me how people have these characters that they're so undyingly loyal to on The Walking Dead. But I think, there are characters that I like more, and then there are characters like Carl that I can't stand, and I want them to die. And kind of like Andrea in season 2 or 3 or whenever she died, the fans were just calling for her character to die, and finally they did it. Although in the comics, she stayed alive for much, much longer. And I'm not sure if she's supposed to still be alive or not, but she definitely... I think she did die. I think so. But like her character was alive much farther along in the comics than she was in the show. So the show's already demonstrated a willingness to, kill off their characters, but I think they want to keep it like... I think they think that a lot of the drama in the show comes from Rick Grimes as a father trying to, shepherd and protect his son in the zombie apocalypse. And I think they think that that's a compelling storyline, and I just don't think that most people really think it is,
I will say that kind of thing probably grabs you more if you have kids.
Okay. Okay. And I think that's fair, and I can't really comment on that, but I would say that there's a video game that I'd strongly recommend then, if that's the kind of thing you're into, which is...
Well, it's not like an interest of mine. It's just like you think about that kind of thing more if it's actually something you're concerned about just in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I could see that, but there was a video game called... oh man, I can't think of the name right now. But I'm going to keep trying to think of this. But oh man, I don't know what this was called. It was on the PlayStation exclusively, and it was oh boy, this is bad. I can't remember this. Oh man. Well, anyways, in the game, you're a character who, at the beginning, you come home to your house and you're there, and your daughter's there and stuff, and this is actually the first night that the zombies get loose. And so somebody breaks into your house while you're asleep or something, and you wake up, and you go around looking, and you go outside or something, and then you switch to the daughter, and the daughter starts playing, and she goes around the house looking for her father who went outside or something, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the news and outside the house and everything. And then finally... Your brother, I think your dad's brother or something, comes in the truck and gets you, and you're trying to leave and everything, and he's telling you what's going on a little bit. And then when you're just about to get away, there's like a government quarantine, and your daughter gets shot by the government stuff, and she dies. And then like the story picks up like 10 years later or something, and you're living in this kind of this shanty town that's controlled by the government and everything. But ultimately, like, you get sent on a mission to escort this young girl who is kind of like a proxy for your daughter or something to another station on the other side of America. So you're basically walking across America on foot with these zombie things everywhere. And the story is great, touching. The characters are well developed. I mean, it's the same type of thing. It's this parental instinct to protect a child or a child surrogate in this story. And it's driving me crazy that I can't think of the name right now, but it's such a good game. And so I'm saying I think that kind of story can be done very well, but I just don't think that The Walking Dead does it because of the acting choices and the writing choices that they've made. So, yeah.
But do you think in certain ways it's kind of maybe not actually in the league of The Wire and The Sopranos? It's actually more closely related to something like Game of Thrones?
No, because I think Game of Thrones basically has good acting too.
But it's another show where anybody could die at any time. It's based on a book, although I think the series has now surpassed the book, because I don't think George R.R. Martin has put out his new book yet, but they're just continuing on with the story, I think. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's true. And it's another thing where I don't always completely know what's going on, but I don't feel upset about that, and I'm just kind of like rolling with it. I will say you're probably right that Game of Thrones maybe has better acting. It has Peter Dinklage, so obviously it has better acting.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, quick aside, the game's name is The Last of Us. The Last of Us. It's an outstanding game. I went back and I bought a PS3 when the PS4 came out because the prices went down and everything, just to play some PlayStation exclusive games and stuff. And one of the series I really wanted to check out was the Uncharted series because people said it had good acting and good directing and everything. I really didn't think the acting was great, although the set design was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But the real standout game for the PlayStation was this game called The Last of Us, which was, again, about this kind of this father-daughter relationship in the post-apocalyptic world and stuff. It was really outstanding. So, yeah. Anyways. But, yeah. So that's a game I would recommend for that kind of a story. But, yeah, I have heard other parents say that like, certain kinds of movies that were bad or something, they start to look good or something after you have a kid, and you can kind of understand the parent, what they're going through or whatever. So.
It happens to the best of us.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll know someday. Who knows? But yeah. Well, anyways, Bob, I'd probably better get going here. I've got to go back to work in less than an hour, basically. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for hopping on the phone. Have you put up any new YouTube things yet?
I've kind of fallen away from that because I was frustrated because like my income from the YouTube stream was actually going down. Basically, I have to get to $100 and stuff before they start sending me any money for it or whatever. And I was at 6 cents, I was at 32 cents. I was like, all right, this is slow, but like I'm sure after I hit like a critical mass, it'll balloon up. But then for some reason, my income went down to 5 cents or 6 cents or something. It went down. Like what? And so I sent an email to YouTube, and I was like, hey, why is my AdSense or whatever income actually going backwards? But it ended up being, and then I got busy with work and everything, and I kind of got discouraged about the whole thing, and I just didn't upload for a long time. And I didn't even check my email to see what the reply was, but I checked it the other day and stuff, and it's down to 1 cent. And I'm like, what in the world once people have viewed it and they clicked on the ad or whatever, and you've made the money, how do you lose the money? So maybe I need to check my email. But I do have I shot a video the other day in Seoul when I was on vacation at a Korean War Memorial Museum with a Chinese teacher that I work with here. And so I have new videos that I need to upload, but it's just such a hassle. It's so much trouble to upload them all and everything. And then when you don't even realize, like, if you're getting money for it or not, eventually it's just kind of I'm not saying that's the reason I necessarily primarily did it, but I was definitely curious about the income style from a YouTube thing. I've wondered about that for years. And, I have lots of questions.
Yeah. Well, I think I have $15. Yeah, I think I have $15 sitting in an AdSense account I'm never going to get.
$15, that's pretty good. Like, people don't realize like how much you have to grind to get that kind of money on YouTube. They're stingy with it.
Oh, I'm even talking about my personal website. I haven't done on my videos yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Well, interesting. But yeah, it's hard it's definitely hard to make money at this kind of thing, I guess. But I don't know. I guess if you reach a certain audience level, if you find your target audience or whatever, your demographic, then maybe you can. I don't know. Whatever. We'll see what happens. But yeah. But yeah, people, they should check it out. Chai in Korea on YouTube if they want to check out. Like, I think I put up about 12 or 13 videos already, and I swear to God, there are going to be more videos. I will put up more videos soon, and hopefully I can get up to. I was putting out 1 or 2 videos a week there for several weeks when I was really, at the beginning, and I had a lot of energy for it and stuff. But I've kind of, fallen out of the habit here, and I need to clear up some room on my GoPro camera so I can do some more, because I think the hard drive is full right now.
Well, they're great videos.
Yeah, hopefully.
I love the ones where you put them on your head and ride around the city.
Yeah. The only downside is that I found that when I put when I put the camera in the camera holder and then attach it to the headset or the chest set or whatever, the sound quality goes down because it muffles the mic.
Mm-hmm. And
so I found out that that's kind of a big problem and stuff. So I've taken more to just kind of holding it in my hands and stuff when I'm filming because I can
it's so dangerous.
A little bit more. Well, it's a very strong camera, Bob. The GoPro is designed like you can run over it with a car and it'll still keep filming and stuff apparently. So it's pretty sturdy. I haven't dropped it yet. So yeah. But yeah, hopefully if anybody wants to check out my videos and stuff, they're out there.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe you'll motivate me to get off my ass and get back to work. So,
and click those ads, people. Come on, let's get Jonathan over the $100 mark.
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to tell people to click my ads, but click my ads.
So, what are they going to do? Take away your 1 cent?
Yeah. That's they don't have enough money on me to have any real leverage yet. So whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll have a great night there, Bob, and I look forward to hearing the podcast. And I hope everybody is having a great time in America. Watch the videos I recommend, read the story I recommended, play the video games I recommend, and vote. Don't vote for Trump. Vote for somebody or anybody else, basically.
Yep.
Don't vote for Gary Johnson either. The guy, he doesn't know where Aleppo is. Come on.
He doesn't know what Aleppo is. Not just where.
What's Aleppo? You're kidding. No, I'm not. What's Aleppo? Morning Joe. So.
That was not an encouraging sign.
Yeah, I don't usually, I enjoy watching Morning Joe as kind of a guilty pleasure. I think Morning Joe he's a smarmy guy. He's somewhat reasonable on politics, but I think just beneath the surface, he's a diehard Republican maniac. But he treats Mika Brzezinski, he treats her just horribly. And so I don't usually go to that show expecting Mike Barnacle to break any kind of news, but that day he did. More power to Mike Barnacle.
Is there any show you watch that you don't hate watch?
Mr. Robot's pretty good these days. You get a chance. I mean, okay, season 1 of Mr. Robot was outstanding.
Yeah, everyone says they don't like season 2.
I sort of hate watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've kind of I think they're playing too many games with the audience and lying to the audience. I think you can have an unreliable narrator and lie to the audience a little bit, but I think the degree to which they've done that in season 2 is just unreasonable. I think so I'm really hoping they have a return to form in season 3, but it's a good show. Season 1, my mom told me to watch it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll watch it someday, whatever. And I didn't really. I was mad at my mom because I was like, okay, Mom, you told me to watch it, but you didn't tell me, Jonathan, you need to watch this. This is really good. Because when I watched season 1, I was like, oh my God, this is a really, really smart, clever, well shot, well acted, great soundtrack show. And it has a lot of tie-ins and parallels, I think, to the video game Watch Dogs. So Watch Dogs is a game set in Chicago where you're a hacker. And so it's an interesting game. Not a perfect game, but a pretty good game. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I better wrap it up. But yeah, definitely a lot of talk about media. We have a lot of talk about media here this episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad we did it because we're going to have to get right into it with the debates when they start happening. So I just wanted one without that, you know.
Yeah. Well, we drudge through the dreary of politics these days, and then we got into something a little bit more fun, maybe. But yeah, I'm sure after the debates we're going to have plenty to talk to, and I think the good thing about after the debates is that it'll be fresh in our mind, and it'll be a concise list of topics that we can address. So
yeah, I'm with it.
I think that'll go well.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Yep.
Cool.
Later on, Bob.
Talk to you soon. Bye.